So let's start as quickly as we can. Great to have such distinguished panelists with us today. And we are here to discuss on or have a conversation on the topic GCC as a global shopping destination. Now, this region has become a hotspot, and it is redefining retail. And from that perspective, we are here to converse on how local tourism versus international tourism is converging in this market, how are global brands coming into this region, localizing, yet protecting their DNA. We will speak about local brands coming up with great ideas and innovation and going international. And yes, we will also talk about the formats and the experiences that define this region. But before we get there, I just did a bit of an AI search, since we can't afford to miss AI in everything that we do. I came up with some interesting facts about our region. Some of these you might know, some of these might come as a surprise to you. I do not have any giveaways, so I will not ask questions. I will rather respond to the questions that I ask myself. So, the world's most popular hangout place, Dubai Mall. 105 million visitors, probably larger than population of most of the countries around the globe, yeah? There is a souk in Muscat called the Mutrah Souk. It is one of the oldest in the Arab world. Its tangled maze-like alleys are covered by wooden roof. But the interesting part is that it is nicknamed Souk al-Thalam. I hope I pronounced that correctly in Arabic, Souk al-Thalam, which means the market of darkness, because sunlight barely penetrates its bustling corridors. Another interesting fact is that there is a market just for women. In Oman again, there is a historic town called Ibra, which hosts a renowned Wednesday market, which was traditionally run exclusively by and for women to trade essentials, silverwork, and textiles. Now, interesting fact about Bahrain. Did we know that Bahrain takes great pride in their national pearl heritage? So if you ever go to Bahrain and you go and buy pearl in the Bahrain souk, it's 100% natural pearl. And that's the unique guarantee that they give us for anybody globally. And the last but not the least, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Today it has got more than 4,500 malls. And that number will only grow bigger as they look and work upon their 2030 vision plan. So these are some interesting facts about the retail landscape in this region. So let's start. Dinesh from Landmark Group. Given the extreme summer weather in this region, shopping in retail malls, becomes a favorite pastime for the residents as well as the tourists. Can you give your views on the formats and experiences in retail that define this region?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Obviously, the region has changed a lot in the last 25 years. And if I talk about in the last 3 or 4 years, there are few formats that have clearly driven growth. First and foremost are the strong omni-channel players. Those who offer a great experience in store and a good convenience online, with a significant online contribution. I think here, Centerpoint, which is Landmark's flagship business, where my business, Shumat, sits as one of the 4 anchors, is one of the largest omni-channel players. We've spent enormous amount of capex in the last 3 to 4 years. 75, almost half of our 150 stores have been renovated and elevated just in the last 3.5 years, and a further elevation is coming up. Being it's a mid-price player, so we need to elevate given the value segment is also catching up. So being a good omni-channel player, I think Zara as a brand has done phenomenally well as well. They have elevated their in-store experience, and both globally and in the region, they have done a phenomenal online contribution and online growth as well. So I think that's the first one, if I say the last few years across, and I'm predominantly talking about fashion, footwear, sportswear. I'm not talking about other categories. I'm not qualified to talk about other categories. But we've seen that across in Landmark, even in our two other large businesses being Home Center and Max, right? The omnichannel presence is, and the success in omnichannel has driven both brick and mortar and online growth. Brick and mortar from experience, and online because of convenience, and whether it's fast delivery is one of those things, but catalog size importance. The second one is what the previous panel spoke about, value. I think probably that might be even bigger. Domination. Within our group, you have Max, which is the market leader in that space, but you heard Neeraj talk about R&B has grown a lot. There is Red Tag that has gone a bit through ups and downs, but it's bouncing back. And now Primark coming in, and then you have the Sheins of the world from outside. So that entire value segment clearly is the number one winner in this region, and that has grown despite, and many of these value players have grown despite the competition from Shein. And that, I think, is here to stay, and I won't talk more about that because the previous panel covered a lot of that. The third one, more closer to my industry, is branded sportswear, global sports brands. That has grown enormously over the last 4 years, especially post-COVID. People's way of dressing, work from home, more relaxed, dress down culture. So, and that has grown both from their DTC stores through multi-brand stores like Shoemart, and primarily through online platforms who use branded sports as an acquisition tool, and they discount heavily. So I think these are the three sort of areas that have really grown phenomenally. I'm not saying they aren't great niche players. Rajan is one of them who does, he can talk about what he does, but I think these are the three big ones that have really defined fashion, clothing, footwear, retail in this region, especially offline, but together with online as well.
So the message that we get is the convergence of online and brick and mortar.
That's the most important one.
And it is not that one is given a priority over the other. Both are equally important. Both are getting the right level of investments, and they both provide a different kind of experience to the consumers.
And I must add, the e-commerce platforms, the big ones here in this region, are not really profitable. World over, they were never very profitable. Some of them in Europe have become profitable now, but in the region, the big e-commerce players are still not pure plays. I'm talking about the pure plays. They're still not profitable. It's a valuation game, and as long as they don't have very strong private label offering to increase their margins, they aren't going to be profitable. So I think their growth, the offline players obviously late started to the online world, but as they grow the omni-channel business, eventually the pressure on the online platforms will become very great, and I think there will be a lot of M&A acquisitions, consolidation in that space. But the omni-channel players, those who get it right, I think they will rule eventually.
Right. We heard some examples coming from the earlier session as well on the growth of the online. So, looking at those formats, both the formats growing in their equal way in the region. This question is for you, Jonathan. This region is now seen as a trendsetter. It is no more an emerging market, but it is a market where concepts are born, ideas are born, taking shape, going international. From your perspective, what is the format that is defining the retail in this region, and what the future looks like?
Good afternoon, everyone. First, I think we experience, all of us every day when we go to a mall, that we are a region that is now setting up standards for excellence, for customer journey. It was mentioned earlier that Alshaya is bringing Ulta in the region. For those who are not familiar with Ulta, they are the leading retailer in beauty, and the US is the biggest beauty market in the world. So they're big guns, big guys. And their first door outside of the US will be the Middle East. That says something. And if they chose the Middle East, it's because they know they can elevate their brand. They know they can delight every single customer coming through the door of Ulta with Alshaya in the region. And how did we get there? We are a very innovative and technology-driven region, for sure. that brings us as well very knowledgeable and very, let's say, that our customers are very high expectation when they set to our doors. So that motivated all of us as retailers to increase our standard of retail, of customer journey. And especially the most important point, which for me is what makes a difference, the main asset of the region is its people. People in the room, people in our stores, people in our team. We come to the region where retail is a very aspiring career, which is not something that you have everywhere in the world. So you have very, very dynamic teams. You have very engaged teams that are delivering extraordinary customer experience. And that's how you meet as well the demands of our very, very high expectation from our customers. And our answer to that at Kiko Milano, globally and locally, is that before we started our transformation journey in terms of data and technology, we actually started with a culture journey. Because you want your team, we speak about customer buying for trust, but you want your team as well to be loyal. And they're loyal if you transform their job into a passion, where they have the right, healthy, and motivating work environment, where they know they belong to a team, they know they belong to a project, they have a mission, they have a vision, they feel connected, they have the opportunity to grow, to learn, also to do mistakes from which they can learn, and that gives you a team that is unstoppable. And yes, at Kiko Milano, we have beautiful store, we have amazing product, but same as the region, our main asset is our team. And that's our main answer to the region. And that's how we're setting up excellence in our stores and answering the demand of our consumer.
Right. So people are central to the theme, and it's the local culture that defines the formats and experiences. I think all of us, when we go internationally to shop, we do have our experiences. You walk into a mall or a shopping experience in this region, you go to US, you go to UK, it's different. And what really brings up the difference here is the culture, the hospitality of the local people. So that's what differentiates it. So the next question is to Rajan. And you are investing. So we're still talking about formats and experiences that define the region, right? So we've heard over here about the story of people, about omni-channel playing an equal role with brick and mortar. You have opened up a 5,000 square foot mall, a place in Doha. What's the rationale behind that investment?
So the rationale is we were always traditionally a nightwear company, so 1,800 square feet stores. And over the years, we've added categories, lingerie. There was a big push for athleisure, and our stores were becoming really congested. So fortunately, the store next to us in Doha Festival City became available. We took it and we opened a 5,000 square feet store, I think literally 2 months ago. And with the same products, just with a bigger format, the response has been fantastic. The sales have been fantastic. The store is almost like, it's like a theater. And the consumer, we've managed to create a much more emotional connection with the consumer. Before we found out, I mean, women would come in with kids, but the husbands would stay outside. Now the husbands are coming in and also browsing around the store. The response has been fantastic. Right away in Villaggio, we've taken the store next to us in Landmark Mall. We're actively speaking to retailers to expand here. I mean, I think that's our biggest challenge, getting bigger spots. I was speaking to Jonathan earlier, to get those bigger malls. And, but there are many new malls coming out in Avenues, Riyadh, and all future malls, we are signing 6,000 to 7,000 square feet. I mean, like you said, the consumer here, they know what we want. We're in a very fortunate position here in the GCC. And being a direct-to-consumer brand, similar like what Landmark is, we can offer fantastic products. We can offer more categories. So we plan to roll out this format across the region. It'll take us some time, but I think next year we'll open another 4 stores in the same format.
Right. So you spoke about the experience, and you rightly said that the men now come with their women, or husbands come with their wife to shop, and I must tell you that when I go shopping with my wife, she really loves it. And actually, she's the one who gets the best for me. So I don't go shopping without her. All right, but that's interesting. So since we are talking about these large stores and bringing these concepts, my next question is to Nicola from ASICS. So where do I see Nicola? Right there. And ASICS is actually launching or bringing, or let me rephrase this, launching a concept which will start in Dubai and go international. So your first concept store is coming in Dubai. Again, we are talking about formats and experiences of this region. Why this region and why that format?
Yeah, exactly. And let me bring just a little bit of context to that question for everyone here in the room. Beginning next year, together with our partner, the Apparel Group, we are launching a completely new concept that will be first of its kind worldwide. So the first store ever of this concept will launch in Dubai. And when you ask me why are we doing this in Dubai, I ask you back, why wouldn't we be doing this in Dubai? Because the market here, the market here in the UAE and in the GCC in general is robust and is evolved. And I think we don't take enough time and pause and think about it, how the market is evolved and how the consumer here is confident. The consumer has the purchasing power to adopt new things, to try new things, to experiment, and I think this is the perfect, actually, platform for launching the new concept and then going with it globally.
Okay, thanks for that insight, and we will look forward to that launch.
Of course,
right? And you know that I still have to buy my pedal shoes from ASICS.
Counting on
Okay,
it.
but we spoke about formats and experiences that define the region. I think another key aspect of the retail landscape in GCC is also that international brands localize. And when they localize, do they do it in the right way without compromising on their DNA, or even their DNA goes through that chain? So let me ask this question to you, Anshuman. Right? You deal with a lot of brands, and the international brands coming into the region, trying to localize, to meet the needs of the local consumer, to blend with the local culture. Do they lose their DNA, or do they do something different?
So when we are at Safa, we are probably the youngest retail company in the region, and hence we are able to experiment more, and our brand partners experiment more with us. So for our first, one of our first stores, which is Verumoda, when we launched it in Riyadh, we took the very clean Scandinavian sensibilities that the brand excels in the domestic markets, and converted that into a very, very beautiful Arabic structure. So we have olive trees in the store, and Arabian carpets on the wall. And we've done a minimalist store like Scandinavians would love to do. So that gives the store a very unique feel. We opened in the middle of Ramadan. We did a small capsule collection of Ramadan like everyone else would do. We weren't very sure how it would do, so we kept it very limited, but it was so loved that we had to fly in additional merchandise, because whatever we put for next 2 weeks got sold out on the first weekend. And so consumers here, I would put a caution to that. Consumers don't love patronizing. So if they're coming to a international brand because they understand what the international brand means and what's the DNA of the international brand, but they appreciate the fact that when you change slightly to tell people that you know what they're asking for and you're willing to listen. So that's been my experience with international brands coming here. At the same time, I would like to add that in one of our other brands, Hunke Moller, they're Dutch lingerie brand, so very out there, very fashionable, always pushing the boundaries. And having worked with us over one season, they suddenly realized that they have a huge customer back home in Northern Europe, which has very similar sensibilities to people living in this part of the world. And they had never celebrated Ramadan before in their stores. And so they took the product innovation that we brought for our customers here and put it in their stores, and their sales were through the roof in a month that wasn't even part of their calendar. So it's a two-way street, and I think increasingly the international brands operating in the region would benefit from what's happening here in the region, because we are far more global than any other city in the world. You said 150 million people. Dubai airport alone handles highest number of traffic. You add airports in 30 minutes flying time or 100 kilometers as the crow flies, and half the world is flying through this region, or more than half the world is flying through this region. So we are at, oft used word, but we are at the melting pot of global culture at this moment, and there's no option for international brands to adopt to what the region wants.
Great to hear that, Anshuman, and good start there that you had to call additional merchandise. By the way, when you spoke about the carpets going on the wall, the amount of money I put on Persian carpets, I will not put them on the floor. They better be on the wall. Yeah?
They're Arabic carpets, not Persian.
Okay. Well, but, again, we have here Marco from GMG, who has got this interesting experience. Marco, you came in here from Saudi Arabia, and again, you have seen there, international brands increasingly localizing, right? Can you share your experience? What is driving, or rather, what is the motive of these brands to increasingly localize? Why do they do that, and how do they still preserve their original fabric?
Yeah, hello everyone from my side. It's a privilege being here. So just a little background on the GMG Health and Beauty. So as the name says, so we are dealing with health, beauty, wellness products. We manage retail network through some of brands that you might know, like Supercare, Good Health, and we have our distribution network. I've been privileged to be in the region for the last 10 years, and as Josefa said, I've been probably involved directly or indirectly in launching more than 100 brands in these categories. So as we all know, regions has changed, and Saudi versus UAE is different. So for brands to keep DNAs, I think the first, let me say, condition is that they have right local partners that will guide them through route to market. Second thing, those brands need to be flexible, and they need to understand that whatever works in their home country might not work here. So if we talk about UAE first, I would say the level of customization of route to market is less than in Saudi because of, let me say, different customer, different demography, where you have more international customers here. However, still we see that, we had recently example of a, very successful brand from UK called Revive Collagen that we introduced to UAE market. When we were talking to principals, we realized that, the audience that they were addressing in UK will not work here. So they were targeting, for example, women 40 years plus, where age of customer here, especially in our retail, is younger. So we had to tweak their communication strategy. The brand in UK was launched through TV, print media. We know here that, you have to focus more towards social media. You need to bring influencers to endorse the brand. Events are very important. So, and I can tell you from first month, we already saw, very good performance of this brand. Sometimes it happens, I would say, in 50% of cases, to be very honest with you, that what works in home country can be applied here, but again, there is a risk. If we talk about Saudi, I think, Saudi, especially, I would say 5 or 10 years ago, there was a lot of customizations that brands were supposed to do to keep their DNA. If we ignore the registration part and complexity into entering the market, which is always there, the pricing itself, had to be adapted. I think 10 years, I remember, European skincare brands you could sell 2-3 times more expensive and people wouldn't care. Today, with AI online, with accessibility of information, those price index needs to be brought to the reasonable level. Second of all, there was some cultural limitations where if we talk about communications, marketing strategies, those brands had to adapt to the local market, especially Saudi those days. Today it's a different situation. So again, events in Saudi worked very well because, this was not something that, brands would usually do, and they were very successful as long as you are able to manage them properly. So going back to my previous point, if there is right local partner and if the brand is ready to adapt to the local market and not to force maybe strategy that was working well in other countries, I think the success rate for this brand in the region will become very high.
Thank you, Marco. Very interesting insight there. So the degree of need to localize actually depends or differs from country to country within GCC, because Dubai or UAE has got a lot of international population. That need is very different from Saudi Arabia, which is primarily a local resident-driven market. So even a brand that is operating across GCC will have to adopt different measures to localize inside Saudi Arabia. That's a good insight. So we speak about localization. Let's just move out of a little bit from the traditional retail merchandise approach and go to food and beverages. And we have Amjad here. Amjad from Brunch and Cake. I love it. I'm your neighbor in Jumeirah, and that's one of my favorite weekend breakfast places, by the way. So a great story. You got that brand from Barcelona, right? And you brought it into the city, you brought it into this region. And again is the question, international brand localizing. And you have done some changes there. You changed it to adopt to the local taste. Could you share with us what did you do and why?
Morning, thank you for having me. Dubai is such an international market. Yeah? If you look at the amount of nationalities that you rub shoulders with every day, is slightly more than when you go to London or to any other city, because we're just this central hub between the East and the West. We have the Middle East in the middle. When we brought Brunch and Cake in the beginning, it was a franchise. So coming out of Spain, if you really look how the brand looked over there, it's 80 to 100 meters, close at 4 p.m., operate predominantly as a brunch place. Half of the desserts were vegan. In Spain, they have not so much sweet tooth. So when we brought it to Dubai, part of the initial agreement was we have to localize. The brand in the format that they have it in Europe probably won't work but in Spain. So we had to work with the founders at the time to adapt it. So the size has to go slightly bigger for it to be commercially viable. We added a lot of items and expansion to the menu. So we have a proper all-day dining. In terms of flavors, you have to customize in order to fit to all dietary expectations. So in Dubai, you have vegans, vegetarians. You have to have people in the GCC do not mind having a lot of butter and sugar, while you have the Europeans, which is quite health conscious. So we had to reformat the whole concept in order for it to properly be a global brand. Interesting for us, when we bought the brand a couple of years after, we started exporting the brand. We have now in 10 countries, 30 stores. We're growing to 60 within the next 3 years. And what we noticed the moment we started expanding version 2.0 of the brand, which is the Dubai version, we managed to send it to India, and it worked with a minor adaptation within the Indian market. We managed to do in Greece, Turkey, more or less 80% the version of what we have, which probably would be 70% different of the version in Spain. Ironically, we started expanding post doing the acquisition. We had 4 outlets in Barcelona at the time. With the growth, we managed to open 5 more outlets in Spain and Barcelona, but within the Dubai version. Their numbers went up 30% after adapting the actual Dubai version, because international travelers had an aspiration to, having bigger variety, the consumer taste fit the international standards. Dubai has become, in my view, a great platform for you to build brands. Because you're competing internationally. Every strong brand globally is in Dubai, while in certain cities, it's predominantly the local market and a couple of international players. So this has helped us tremendously in formatting the brand to be a global fit brand.
Right. Thank you, Amjad. Well, if you would have bought brunch and cake, I would say 10 years ago, when Dubai still used to have its siesta time from 1 to 4, it would have suited that need. But if I heard you correct, you said 70% alteration to suit the local need. Wow. So that's the level of localization that the brand had to go through. Interesting fact there. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
So let's get a different perspective. So we have heard everyone here from the retail industry. Now I'll ask this question to, where's my friend Adriano? There, I can see you there. Adriano, your company is present in 50 countries, and you obviously work with a lot of these brands. The level of localization in this market versus others, how do you see it? Is this region unique, which makes brands really localize in a big way? Or is this a similar trend that you observe in other parts of the world as well?
Hey, Josefa, thanks for the question. Thanks for organizing this amazing panel. Good morning, everyone. I just want to make sure the people on the back, you can hear me. Thank you. Thanks for the sign. We have some very good friends, and this question of localization, first of all, we are VTEX, a commerce platform. We are turning 25 years this year, and we are in 50 countries, as you said. And one of my colleagues here, Diego, we have been discussing localization with hundreds of customers, and I always say the word is flat, so flat as the book, that his boss, former boss, is here. Anita, I think you worked with Diego in some point of time in the same brand. So after, you need to tell me how he performed previously. And Diego, you see, the word is very small. I'm just saying because when we talk about localization, GCC is very broad. And it depends how granular you want to go with localization. Even if we say UAE, Dubai versus Abu Dhabi, or my grandmother, she was from Saudi, Jeddah, and I have some friends here from Jeddah. So if you compare Jeddah versus Riyadh, we can see a lot of difference. But always there is a trade-off. And I say it depends on the budget and depend on the KPIs of success for you. Because the KPIs of success for you can be one, you can say revenue, and the other can say, no, profit. And someone else will say, no, it's net recurring revenue, or CAC. And I took some notes here. I just don't want to miss some of the points, because I think talking about GCCs, there are those different cultures, as my friends were saying here. But without a doubt, GCC standouts when we talk about global entities, global brands, and bring this to the local DNA values, as my friends were saying here. And I want to think about the consumer client side, because I always ask in the last retail reboot summit, if someone was here, I asked the difference between a user to a buyer to a client. So the user is someone who is navigating our website, the buyer is someone who is making the first purchase, and the client is the recurring client. In this region, if you consider, as you were mentioning here, we have a lot of visitors versus the residents. So I saw in the news this week, Dubai reached 4 million residents. But we have millions of people who are as a visitor. So those visitors, they are the one-time buyers. And you have the residents where you want to build the relationships with those people. So obviously, it depends who you want to address. You want to address the tourists who come to the region to consume, or you want to address and build a relationship with the locals I have some data here because you asked me to compare, because we can discuss journeys, all the 360 view that we want to build, all the loyalty, personalization, everything that in our platform. Someone before us was talking about how you can engage better with shoppable videos, live shopping that we have here in our platform and when we can show to you. But US and Europe, they are more concerned about compliance, logistic, regulation. You go to Latin America, where we were born 25 years ago, it's really about, they don't have credit cards. So there is a fraud issue. People are really concerned about payment installments, for example. But if you go to India, and I have been in India for many years, Asia, everything is huge. It's a massive market, right? And every app is a super app. It's a huge ecosystem. So obviously, I say, when we talk about localization, it's not only the localization of your product, because I ask people, you sell a product, you sell a services, or you sell experience as well, or you sell both, or the three. So about those challenges and trade-offs of one-time buyer versus a client that you want to build a relationship, we try to enable brands to build this global ambition with the local authenticity and to avoid what I call the commoditization of your product, which is what we remember, the red ocean, how you can enable those blue oceans in your business. And obviously, we will not only follow global practices, we want to build a global practice from here.
Right. So if I heard you right, there is a difference in the level of localization, but there are influencing factors that determine it. You spoke about lack of credit cards in Latin America. You spoke about compliance issues in mainland US and others. So that is what is differentiating the level of localization that each of these brands adopt, right?
That's correct. And which customers you are targeting or addressing.
The demographic.
That's correct.
Okay, so we have spoken about this, international brands getting localized. Let's just speak a little about local brands going international. How does the format that worked wonders in this region is then now creating records abroad? So I will ask you, Dinesh. Now, when I was researching and then talking to you, I do understand that Max and Baby Shop are growing outside the region, right? And Viva is also going international. So what is that uniqueness of this region that is making it a success abroad? Could you just give some insights?
Sorry, I'll first start with the shoe business, which I run and I'm representing here. We are not going international. Shoe Mart or Shoe Express are not. However, we do have some franchise stores in Iraq and East Africa and Tanzania. We have about 15 stores. It performs okay, partly because we are not equipped. Our supply chain is not equipped to serve franchises very well. We have to bring forward make changes to our supply chain timing to do that, but which is not our core priority right now. Coming to, again, within the footwear business, I've got a bigger challenge that my business is being disrupted within the GCC by online players. The likes of Trendyol, for example, which is the latest one that came in about 18 months ago, and they burnt over $1 billion dirhams just in marketing to acquire customers. And they use footwear, primarily branded footwear, as an acquisition category. So I've got my home turf to protect, and we are protecting it quite well and growing. So that's not a priority for our shoe businesses. But coming to Max and Baby Shop, you're absolutely right. They're doing extremely well from a small base still in Malaysia and Indonesia. I don't know the number of stores, but it's still not crossed 100 stores between the two countries. Both of them are growing and are slowly, gradually escalating. But you can also count India being partly an international part, though the families, the owners are Indian. So India is partly international and partly local, and it's run completely separately out of the Middle East operations. There, Max is a pretty much a household name in the value segment, with over 400 stores. Home Center's got probably another 90 odd doors, and Baby Shop has just launched in India with about 6 or 7 doors. What is making them successful? The Indian businesses were catered, localized right from start. So Max in India is not necessarily look very similar to Max in the Middle East. Again, I'm not the right person to answer that, but that's what I know. And similarly for Home Center, but they're trying to ensure that the brand DNAs of those brands in India are also aligned with the Middle East, and it is happening in the last few years. In Malaysia and Indonesia, I think it's been different because they are Islamic countries, and obviously there's a direct affinity with the current GCC market. So the experience offering is pretty much similar to the offering we have in the Middle East, and hence I think there is much more receptiveness with the consumer there. But again, it's still early days. For a group like Landmark, if you open 60 or 70 doors in Malaysia and Indonesia, it's not that much of an international presence. But yes, it is naturally growing there. But I think, and your last question about Viva, again, I'm not the right person to answer that because Viva sits outside Landmark Retail, though within the group. It expanded into, it was born, I think, in 2017 or 18. It expanded to Oman last year. I believe they've got 7 to 10 stores doing well, I hear. I know, or I hear that they are going to one of the bigger markets in the region. I can't talk about it. I'm not authorized to talk about it, but I suspect they will eventually go into the largest market in the region, probably in the near future.
Right. So, but you did a good job, though these were not brands related to your line of business. Thank you for answering those questions with whatever limited information you had. But I could draw the conclusion that for the international expansion, the demography similarity with this market is allowing those brands to mushroom in that. So you specifically spoke about
Yes.
Indonesia, Malaysia market. And the alignment, from the culture perspective, is helping the local brands find a foothold in that market.
I mean, there has been a history. Schumart was taken into Spain much before my time, much before I was with the group. It was done more for emotional reasons because we had a good partner called Pavlovsky, which is the shoe stores that we represent here, and the owners wanted to take our business over there, and it from what I know, it failed miserably. There was a time I know from Raza, who's a co-founder and CEO of Splash. They took Splash into the UK again around 15, 20 years ago. It failed miserably because there were completely different demographics, different consumer tastes, different body fits, different cuts. So I think those were lessons that were probably learned by us and them in the past. And this expansion, which is more to a closer demographic, makes more sense.
Understood.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dinesh, for those insights. Question to you, Anita. I heard from you that Lush developed, correct me, is it a product or is it a concept that you developed locally and then it became an international success? What was that?
Yeah, so Lush has been going around 30 years and predominantly most of the product invention is done from Paul in Dorset. And I would say a strategy in the last sort of 5-ish years has been to broaden the diversity of who is inventing products, to take account of local cultures, local tastes, and just be more appealing to a wider audience, I guess. And so we created something called Co-Create. So it's headed up by the UK, but it invites any employee around the world to put forward themselves to become part of a group to create products for specific needs or specific seasons. So we had a group of our employees from here who are Eid celebrating, and they invented a range called Sticky Dates that was launched for Eid probably about 4 years ago. And off the back of that success, it is now a global bestseller, and it's actually an all-year-round bestseller. So not only has the range stayed, there's other products also been added to that. So yeah, we're really proud of that, and I think it's a really good example of how when you involve more people in your organisation, we heard it earlier, didn't we, about culture and listening and asking, your employees will tell you what you need in your business. So when we always talk about our bathroom shelf. So when everybody opens their bathroom cupboard, you've got all different brands probably on it. I don't, obviously I have Lush for everything. But many people will pick and choose what they want to pick from different brands. Our aim is to try and make sure that when you open your bathroom shelf, we have something for every need, from your hair to your feet, to your skin, for your mind, for your soul. And that's proven to be a really good strategy for us.
So out of curiosity, the brand that you created here, just like how Dubai chocolates have become world famous, have you put a tagline, made in Dubai, on the brand?
We haven't, no, but every time it comes up that it's how the sales that it's doing, we remind everybody this came from Dubai, this came from the Eid co-create, and we're really, really proud of that. And I think more companies should listen to their employees to see what you're missing in your product range.
All right, but that's very interesting story. I think, on the lines of a lot of other concepts that are going international. So this is one more example that we have from this region.
Can I just add something else? Sorry, I forgot to say.
Please.
In Ramadan as well, we all know there's a lovely fruity drink that gets sold here in bottled loads, piled up in supermarkets. So actually this year we launched a range that was inspired by that said drink. And again, it's proven so successful that we're going to be bringing it back again this Eid. And that is also launched globally as well. So we're really proud again that this region is really infiltrating and really inspiring, people around the globe to the tastes and wants and needs of this area.
So Anita, since you're at the helm of these changes, are you actually protecting that with an individual IP?
Well, it's only inspired by.
All right. Thanks for those insights, Anita. So the next question then is to Jonathan. Just picking up the clues in terms of what we are discussing. We spoke about demographies, right? And GCC versus international market. How are those demographic requirements adjusting? So is your business really looking at making those changes, making those adjustments to adjust to the local demography? And does it differ from, we have already heard that it differs from one country to the other in GCC, but does that also apply to you and your line of business?
So I'm just going to start with a bit of that international tourism versus regional tourism. So I moved to the region. I started to work in the region with the opening of Dubai Mall in 2009. Worked for many brands in the last 16 years. And Dubai Mall and Mall of the Emirates as well used to be a massive chunk of your business. Even when I joined Kiko 7 years ago, Dubai Mall alone used to be probably 25% of our business. And you mentioned as an introduction that Dubai Mall is the #1 worldwide hangout spot where you have the most international tourism. Fast forward 7 years later, today, Dubai Mall is not even 3% of my business. And out of that 3%, I don't even have 30% of international tourism. On the other end, I have a massive regional tourism. My highest peak of sales during the year, Eid and Black Friday. When I work with my team on planning staffing or launch or busy period, what we looked at first, what are the holidays in the region? When is Saudi school break? When are Kuwaiti going to travel? And that's why for me, localization and local regional tourism is way more important to my business. Going back to your first question, also why, in my opinion, we are not an emerging market anymore. We are not depending on international tourism. We are not depending on international money coming to the region. We are extremely self-sufficient, and the customer in the region is definitely our main priorities. And why we're able to export, going back to the discussion that we have earlier, why we're able after to export back our Dubai knowledge to the rest of the world, it's because we have such an international and diverse consumer. Similar to the experience at Lush, we launched so many products in the region due to the needs of the region to the rest of the world, because we have that very diverse consumer in Dubai. And in my opinion, if you're successful in Dubai, if you're successful in the region, which is the most demanding market with the most variety of needs from the variety of customer, you're almost able to tackle any single market, because the need in a market, definitely, or in an external market, you would have that need here somehow through some part of your consumer. So yeah.
No, thank you for sharing those statistics. Very interesting numbers that you gave about, and I don't want to repeat that number, but the percentage of Dubai Mall business
Dubai
as a
Mall
part of
business
your
is,
overall business was
it's
pretty stark.
3% of,
Yeah.
now it's 3% of the total.
Yeah.
Total
But I
business.
think one of the common themes that I'm hearing around is definitely that, a lot of attention is being paid around Saudi Arabia, in terms of localization or in terms of uniqueness that we need to drive. And I'm constantly hearing this thing about back to school, which so differs from, UAE back in Saudi Arabia. So, Rajan, next question to you. Now, we need to be aware that we've got only 5 minutes, so your sharp responses and to-the-point answers will be appreciated. You have a business, Rajan, where you have full control. So you're direct to consumer, and you control the entire journey of your product from factory to the store. How is that helping you grow?
Yeah, so as you said, we're direct to consumer. That allows us to offer very competitive pricing, controlling the quality. We're close to the consumer. We listen to them. So that gives us agility and speed. So in the interest of time, we're pretty much going to take this GCC playbook international, starting in Southeast Asia. Like Dinesh said, I saw Max, Baby Shops, Akur Brothers, Brands for Less, so many of these retailers growing aggressively in Malaysia, Singapore, and Indonesia. And that will allow us to, in fact, we'll still be direct to consumer. Our production base is all in the Far East. And so it made sense for us to open in the Far East. So we plan to do this in 26 to 27, probably starting in Malaysia. So it would be a Dubai-based brand opening there.
Congratulations on that success story, Rajan. All the best to you
Thank
and your company for that. Okay, Nicola, Japanese brand, here in the Middle East, and we speak about the demographic preferences, the local culture. And one very interesting insight that you shared with me is, how you're associating yourself with the local culture. So something like early morning activities, activities related to sunrise. How is that defining business for you? Could you elaborate?
Yeah, so I think it's always a challenge for global brands to adapt when doing things regionally, and to implement and listen to all these local nuances in the market. How do they do it, and how do we do it? That there's a tight space there where you can operate, because as a global brand, and I'm talking from a marketing perspective, as a global brand, when you're crafting your campaigns, you want to craft them in a way that you're using a common denominator that applies to most of the markets. But then a lot of these nuances and a lot of these local tastes feels left out. So what we did here, and I'll take an example from our industry, is summer is the time where a lot of sportswear brands promote activity, promote outside activities, outdoor running, etc. But we know here in the region it's almost impossible. So how do we make a spin, a twist that applies to our market, but still stay faithful to our brand voice and brand directive? And what we did, we came to a conclusion that we still have people here running in the morning. It's just a different way and different consumer pattern. So they get up really early, they run before the morning sun, before the heat. And so with this insight, we wanted to create, and we will launch this campaign mid-September, we wanted to create a campaign that celebrates these people and this type of mindset that is basically something that characteristic to this region.
Thank you. So, by the way, I'm one of those runners that goes out running before the
sunrise.
sunrise.
We were having you in mind.
It doesn't reflect on my physique, but I do run. Okay. So thanks for those insights, Nicola. Coming to you, Anshuman. and we heard how Rajan is taking his brand international, right? And you had an interesting, when I was talking to you, and you gave me an interesting insight of other things going international. And one of my favorite burger joints, Pickle. Yeah. So what, according to you, is making these things successful?
So just quickly for the want of time, UAE is home to 200 nationalities. What has changed over last few years is that UAE always used to get 200, 150 nationalities visiting. But now 200 nationalities, mind you, there are only 192 UN recognized countries, so there are more sub-nationalities here than anywhere else in the world. So 200 nationalities call this a home. This is also the youngest demographic region in the world. India used to be younger before, but now because of Saudi average age, this is the youngest demography. This region has the highest penetration of internet in the world, 100%. So everyone uses internet. What this does is that now this was exactly similar reasons why people came into here is now becoming the reason why things would go out of here. Earlier, people used to go on holidays to London, Paris, see a nice coffee shop and bring it as a franchise. Now, those coffee shops are being developed locally. I can challenge you that most of us have had our last coffee in a nice coffee shop that's been run by someone who lives in Dubai. So, and these are the tastes that are traveling abroad. So as the region becomes more confident, the second or third generation of people who have experienced the best in the world live here now. And these are the people who would be developing concepts like Pickle, concept like one of the brands that we run, the Beauty Secrets. It is the reflection of confidence of the region, and it's just a matter of time that the first global brand from this region, first billion-dollar global brand from this region will make its mark in the world. And when I say that, I don't mean make its mark in India or Far East, which we are already dominating, but in the Western world.
I hope that prophecy comes true and comes true soon, that we will have a billion-dollar brand emerging out of the region very soon. So in interest of time, we can see we're already in the red zone, but we have got 2 more questions. So a very quick answers from you, Marco. You know, your company is at the helm of bringing global brands into the region. So how is your company looking at localization of these brands without really impacting their international DNA?
Thanks for the question. So, I mean, first of all, what's nice about UAE is that I think any trend that pops up globally is recognized here very fast. And us being a retailer working directly with customers, our job is to identify those trends. So we are very active globally when it comes to sourcing, visiting specialized exhibitions, and making sure whatever comes as a trend, especially in industry of wellness, where we see a lot of emerging trends. So I think we are, you know, our company, the DNA of our company is to encourage, you know, bringing new brands, trying, innovate, you know, because we feel this is the right market and the right consumer that is ready to accept those kind of innovations. So luckily we are in a market that can absorb, let me say, higher level of innovations and that is constantly looking for something new.
Right. And is your Nike store in Dubai Mall a testimony of that adoption?
No, definitely, you know, as per my knowledge, I think this is the biggest Nike store in the world. You know,
right.
Definitely. And we constantly have a challenge how to innovate these stores, how to bring the shopping experience at the highest level. Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
We heard the buzzer, and if I just request the organizers, I need another 2 minutes because we have interesting story from Amjad, right? Amjad, you know, when I was speaking to you, you said there is version 1.0, and then there is version 2.0, and now we are talking about, you know, what Anshuman just shared with us, brands going global. and you have some of your brands going global as well. How is that journey? And what is the success? Why are we being so successful? A quick snippet on that.
Thanks. You're absolutely right. I think we gained the confidence in the past 5 years to start and go global. Some of our brands, our business partner, Joey from the Main, have moved the Main, which is, a loved brand, started 2014 in Dubai. Today it's in London, in Ibiza, in Bodrum. We're going to Greece. So we started because of I think we've well crafted the brands that started here, because of the competition, because of the consumer expectations. The brands that are born here, in my humble opinion, is becoming super brands that you go confidently to any market you look at. The lookalikes of Recas and Fundamental, who have took Gaia from Dubai to all over the world, and it's becoming one of the top players in its category. So you're going to start to see a lot of these brands coming. There is amazing chefs, there is amazing branding agencies, amazing interior designers. So you're getting the top tier of any category in order to curate these brands. And I think you're going to start to see much more in the next couple of years.
Thank you very much, Anshuman. We have one more person supporting the $1 billion idea from the region, and we will have it there. I had one more question for Adriano, but unfortunately we have run out of time, sir. So thank you, distinguished panelists, for this. I don't think we have time for question and answers, but I'm sure they're around, so any of you would like to interact with them, please feel free to do so. Thank you.